Sir, this is my father, Stephen Dengel. And where are you from?
East Rockaway, New York.
East Rockaway, New York. Where do you currently reside?
East Rockaway, New York.
East Rockaway, New York. Never left. Where'd you go to high school?
Kallenberg Memorial.
Kallenberg Memorial. And where'd you go to college?
Sacred Heart and Malloy College.
Sacred Heart University and Malloy now is a university. This is my mother, Rachel Dengel. Where are you from?
Wheatley Heights, New York.
Wheatley Heights, New York. And where are you from? Or what high school did you go to?
Half Hollow Hills East.
Half Hollow Hills. And what college?
University of Buffalo for undergrad, CW Post, Long Island University for graduate.
Okay, CW Post and Buffalo.
And I currently reside in East Rockaway.
And you also currently reside in East Rockaway, so you're married. Okay. How long have you guys been married?
Since 2007. 18 years.
18 years. And where'd you get married?
Isla Mirada.
Isla Mirada in what state?
Keys. In the Keys.
The Keys in Florida. Okay. Anything you have to say about your marriage?
Is that a question?
I'll
let her do all the duration.
Oh, she'll do the duration ones. Okay. Okay. And so your marriage is from 2007, 18 years. And how many kids do you have now?
Two
kids. How old are they?
17 and 15.
17 and 15. And they both go to Kallenberg. And how old were you guys when you met each other?
I was 2004, so I was 29.
You were 29?
28.
I was
28.
24.
And you were 24 and you were 28?
23, 24.
Okay, 23, 24. They don't actually know how old.
When you met, you were 23.
He was about 23 or 24 and she was about
24.
But you were 23 when I
28 or 29, so okay.
It was prior to your birthday.
It was prior to your birthday. Okay, so let's describe your courtship here. So where'd you guys meet?
Iron Island Gym.
At the gym. Where is Iron Island Gym?
Island Park.
Island
It's
Park.
no longer there. Now it's Planet Fitness.
Yeah, it was a gym. I was working at the gym. She was going to the gym. I was working there at night while going to school. And I wanted to become a trainer. And one of the trainers said, "Oh, I know someone who's already gone through the training, and maybe she'll lend you her books." And so that was how we kind of introduced, I guess, or started. I asked her to borrow books, and she let me borrow them. And then I slipped in, "Hey, I can thank you with we'll go out, as a thank you." And that was our first date. But
So-
of course, before that first date, we did go for a walk and took some time.
So you went on a first date because she gave you some books.
Yep.
But I wasn't sure if he was asking me out on a date or he really just wanted to thank me.
So you didn't know it was a date. You just thought he was thanking you for the books.
I
but
wasn't
he
sure.
thought it was a date.
I wasn't sure.
That's
There
a
was a
little
lot of
embarrassing.
conversation at lunch at work
This was before.
about the cute younger guy at the gym.
This was before the online dating apps and all that.
Before online dating, so.
This is when you actually had to.
So you weren't on Tinder or any of that? You just borrowed her books?
No
Interesting.
apps.
Okay, and anything else about your courtship?
Well, he's younger than me, so that was a big deal at work. It was conversations at work. I'm like, I don't know if he's really asking me out. He's so much younger, and maybe he really just wants to thank the older girl that helped him out.
So
Because he was 23, I was 28.
a weird,
Age.
cute kid got his books and then they went on a date. Or he thought it was a date. Okay. And why'd you guys decide to get married? Or how long did you date before you got married? We could start with that.
Okay, that's a duration question. So.
About 2 years
2 years?
before we got engaged.
2 years before you got engaged, okay. So why'd you decide to get married? Or why'd you decide to get engaged before getting married?
I asked her. I mean, we just, I don't know. You had to plan it out. I don't remember. I asked her to marry me, and then there was some time in between, and obviously we were planning it out. And,
I think he was,
Well, why'd you ask her to marry you?
why'd you want to marry me?
You said why was there? Because I could see myself living with her for the rest of my life. Simple as that. We both had similar values and wanted the same things, and we were already we had gotten very close, and so we were talking about it. We both wanted the same things, and it made sense, and we loved each other.
We were living together already.
Living together where?
At 23 Clark, in the apartment upstairs from
So you moved into your boyfriend's mom's house. Your younger boyfriend's mom's house.
Two-family house. I was
Two-family
renting-
house.
It was a
Yes,
separate apartment.
I
We had
was-
our own kitchen
I
and
was renting
bathroom.
that apartment, yes.
He was renting that apartment.
Yes.
Okay.
You were born there.
And why'd you decide to get, like, what was the marriage process like? Like, planning for the wedding and going all the way to Isla Mirada?
Well, we didn't want a typical Long Island big wedding. I didn't want that. And we both seemed to think it was something different to have a destination wedding. And I had been to the Keys. Yeah.
And that's them getting married at the Keys, okay?
So we took a trip out there and decided, where first let's see it. And we had both been there. I think you had been to the Key West, but I had been to the Keys, and we just kind of went around the Keys looking for places and stumbled upon just a quaint little spot. We were paying for this wedding for the most part ourselves, so that was a factor, and things just seemed to fall into place. Small little rustic place that we could have a destination wedding. It seemed perfect for us.
Okay, now describe what your engagement was like. How is that different from your dating, and how is it different from your married life? Was it different at all?
I don't think
I
so.
don't.
It was just
So either.
another process in our relationship.
I mean, obviously, there was planning for a wedding.
Well, I mean, we did find out that he had a tumor shortly after we were engaged. So that kind of
Okay,
put a
that
lot
was-
into perspective and put us on a trajectory of wanting a family sooner than later.
So you had a tumor.
This was
when you got
a
engaged.
pretty serious skull-based tumor that I had to have surgery, brain surgery, where, the worst case scenario was I wasn't going to make my way out of it, or I could lose my hearing, or, plenty of things. This is a very serious time there, and luckily I got out of there. I did lose half my hearing, but that was the worst of it, and
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah, that was-
atypical to
that was during that time, yeah.
what engaged couples go through when they're planning a wedding. Just kind of put a lot in perspective for us.
Okay. So, how old were you when you got married? It was 2 years after your dating, so how old were you?
I think I was 31.
31?
I would have been 27, so you couldn't have been 30,
Mm,
32.
You were 26.
Or maybe I was 26. It was in 07, I was 26.
Or maybe I was 32.
April would be before your birthday.
So you're 26.
26. And how old were you? April would also be before your birthday. So how old were you in 2006? How old did you
31.
turn?
Like I
31?
said.
31, okay, so
31.
someone has the math right, someone doesn't. Okay. And what were you looking for in a spouse? We'll start with you, Mr. Stephen Dengel.
I think the same thing that most anybody that's looking to get married, you want to have, not that you're looking for yourself, someone who has the same exact thoughts as you, but wants the same things, that'll have children, has the same interests, has the same, or similar interests, I guess, and when it comes down to it, it's companionship. You want to be able to share those things together. Start a family, and so that's what I was looking for.
Okay, and what were you looking for in a spouse? You can't use the same answer.
Okay, well, I mean, we had similar, yeah. What are these rules? Someone I could have a family with, someone who was selfless and same values as me, someone who Now I can't use a lot of the same answers.
Yeah, you can use the
Yeah.
same. That's your.
It's just you want someone similar views as you.
Well,
Not views, but like.
someone who's without ego, someone who has a kind heart, a good heart. The heart is good.
Okay. And how has the reality of your marriage compared to what your view of your marriage would be?
To me, if anyone thinks that marriage is going to be, unicorns and rainbows and everything perfect, then, it's just like life, right? So there's good and there's bad, there's hard and there's easy, and there's joy like you've never felt before, and, having kids and starting family and seeing family and having just fun times. Like, you can't beat that, and it really brings meaning to your life. And then there's hardships and deaths and things that you're sharing together, and there's arguments and things that you don't see eye to eye on. All of that is part of life, and I don't think I ever thought that marriage wouldn't be those things, and it's been all those things.
So marriage is not unicorns and rainbows.
Not
Okay.
always. There's parts that are.
Anything you have to add to that about your side of that?
I don't know, I think that was a good depiction. It is, symbolic of life, the ups, the downs. Sometimes things are great, sometimes things are tough, and, you get going through it together, weather the storm together, and be there to support each other, because there's always other stuff going on. You're raising kids, you're dealing with, aging parents, and you're not always able to put each other first in those moments.
So how important are money and marriage, or money within the marriage?
I think that's where our answers are very different.
We'll start with you. Okay, we'll start with you, Mrs. Rachel Dengel.
I don't prioritize it. I probably should more than the fact that I don't. I kind of make it's not important.
And what do you feel? And let's add in, what was one of your first goals in your marriage?
Well, hold on. I can speak to this, because this is one of those things where money, and don't zoom in here.
I'm not
money
zooming in.
Doesn't matter, right? Things do not matter. They're just stuff. However, in this life that we live, you need to have money, especially in the area that we live. So just like in life, it is important to have, if you want to have the things that you want, right? So you have to have the means to do it, and unfortunately money is the way to do it. Right?
So when you talk about marriage, which is a partnership of two folks that want to have certain things, like live in this expensive area and have children, money becomes an important part of the factor of all these things. And we certainly know that money can tear couples apart. And what I found is so many couples approach it differently, meaning they keep their money separate, they have smaller pools of maybe the things that have to get paid. Every couple is different. What we found works best for us is any money made is in a pot, and we section up the pot of where the things go. There's really not much left after all of the bills are paid, but we need to carve away some to save so that our goals when we're older are set. And we need to make sure that the things that we're looking for in the future, for whether it's paying for high school and getting a certain kind of education, that listen, we can get this for free, but it's not nearly the education that we want for our children. So we pay this larger amount to put through private school and then college. And so planning ahead for all these things makes them doable and makes it less stressful by not getting to it and saying, how are we going to do these things? Well, we plan years in advance for all of these things. So sometimes it doesn't feel great when you feel like you've worked so hard and you can't do the things that you're able to do when you're dating. Something simple like eating out often. Those become things where it's like you have to start to live with a budget so that you can do those bigger things. You can make sure that those things don't stress you out. And so what we've always done is we meet at least monthly to kind of say, how are we doing? How are we doing with the plan that we set at the beginning of the year? And how do we do this month versus the month before that? Okay, maybe we need to make some adjustments. When you look at it that way, it becomes less of a stress, although sometimes it is stressful because we're off on certain things. But it becomes
It's less of a thing that's tearing apart and we're not meeting eye to eye, and more of something that we can plan together and make sure that we get the things that we want. Because it's all about setting goals with the tool of money that you need to have. So I don't want to put here, but that one. And the reason I say so much about it is because it is the thing that tears so many couples apart. It is that stress that can pull people apart. And I don't think we have that because we plan so much. Not to say it's always easy. All right.
Okay, so his monologue about money is over and how it doesn't tear apart his marriage. And next we'll move on to an interesting question here of how how important are similar values and religion to you?
I can jump on that real quick because similar values are, I think, very important. Religion, not so much. We're of different religions. However, our values are the same as what our moral character and the things that we look for in each other and in other people, the people that we gravitate towards. I think that's the same, and regardless of the deity that you think is going to save you, or if you're living a good moral life, it doesn't matter what that God looks like, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that's kind of, regardless that we come from different religious backgrounds, I don't think that's ever mattered, really, for me at least.
You agree?
Agree.
Okay, so this will bring us to an interesting question of what advice would you give to young married couples who are experiencing difficulties and thinking about a divorce?
You want to take it first?
Well, we've seen a few couples who divorced, like we've had friends who got divorced. I feel that, and I would tell my kids, don't ever stay someplace in a relationship that you are not happy or fulfilled. But also, it's not something to be taken lightly. You don't look to get divorced because he's annoying or he's bothering you or he doesn't take out the trash or whatever. It's, like, how deep are these issues that is your life not fulfilling with this person in it, or, can you weather the storm? You got to look to weather the storm because most marriages do have ups and downs. And sometimes more downs than ups at different points in your life. It all depends.
You agree? Anything you'd like to add in?
I mean, I don't know that I would be able to give advice to any couple. I'm not a therapist or anything, but I would say that it is important that they, put the time in and see if it's for them, that they made the right decision. And some people, marriage is not for them, or maybe they did marry the wrong person. I would never say stay married because of children or whatever else. I would never tell someone to stay married. But I would say to make sure that before they go through a divorce, because that's a major thing, just like a marriage was, to make sure these aren't just little insecure things that don't really mean anything. They just mean something in this moment, perhaps.
Okay, we're going to wrap up last two questions here. What do you think is the key to a happy marriage?
Do you want, I can go for it. I mean, I think, like I said before,
Why'd you point at her and start talking? All right.
Because she didn't say anything.
All right, continue.
I think that there has to be an understanding that you're not just in it by yourself, that you're going towards your goals with somebody else with like goals. You're giving more than you're receiving. So as far as what you can contribute to the family and to making not just all the things that we're trying to do work, but also every day. How can I make it easier for your spouse, and how can you make things happen for the kids that want to do lots of different things?
So you think the views of each other and values of each other is the key to a happy marriage?
Yeah, I think it's like she said, when you don't have ego, when you're giving, right, to the other person, it just makes things easier, right? So yes, the values set, what we want in life and our values, all that kind of sets the path. But
so selflessness adds into that.
Absolutely.
I say friendship.
And friendship.
Yeah, a friendship and respect, like looking forward to seeing each other and talking about, just things. Anytime something big happens at work for one of us, the first thing you do is like tell each other, like, oh my God, this is what happened, or anything. The first person you want to tell is, even though he doesn't work with me or know the people at work, it's still like, oh my God, give it to tell Steve.
So you like to
Yeah.
gossip about work with
Just
Mr.
no, I'm
Dengel?
saying like you asked me the question.
Yeah.
It's just anything happening in your life that you want to share it. You know, the first person, anything happens with Nana, with my dad, you know, Grandpa. It's the first thing I do is I want to fill Dad in on what's going on and talk to him about it, talk him through it. You know, ask his advice. What would you do? You know, what do you think of this? Because I respect his opinions and you know, it's friendship. It's also, you know, that too.
And do you defer from that, or do you agree with that? Do
I
you
defer. I think living together is a good thing. I think learning, you know, you're sharing money, you're sharing a home, you're sharing responsibilities of, you know, living together, and so I think it's a good way to, you know, see if it's part of a compatibility check to make sure before you take the next step. And also, I mean, if you're gonna go financially as well, one rent is cheaper than two rents.
Okay. Well,
This helps set you up for your future. Be able to save together and prepare.
so really you deferred on only one question kind of here. So that'll wrap up our interview here. Thank you, Stephen, for sitting down. Thank you, Rachel, for sitting down. And you're welcome.